Hi everyone, this is Ants. I recently did the Dungeon Crawler Game Jam for 2025, and I got an honorable mention, by the way, which is really cool. And basically, with a Dungeon Crawler, your movement is discrete amounts in a grid pattern. It's actually a requirement, or else you get disqualified. So instead of using a navigation mesh, I actually just used A Pathfinding on the grid map, and it's actually quite fast and super easy to use. And I'm going to show you a template repository that I created that you will be able to use to basically do the debug and actually find the best paths and all that kind of stuff. So let's get started on that. So as you can see here, this is my game jam. It's a pretty big level, and instead of doing a navigation mesh here, I don't think a navigation mesh would have done well, because I know the exact point where I need to move to, and also the enemy, it's a discrete grid pattern, right? So the other way of doing it, and I'm just going to quickly show you, is in this project here, I have a grid map over here, and I have a navigation region that generates a navigation mesh. For first-person shooters and third-person shooters, or any game that you have very, very specific control over where you want to go, pixel by pixel or meter, centimeter by centimeter, then this is the way to go. And you have to bake the navigation here. You could pre-bake it. And if you have to change what is navigable and not in-game, it's a lot more detailed and more work. So in my instance, for the game crawler, this is the reason why the use case of using A Pathfinding was a better fit than a navigation mesh. What I'm trying to say here is, depending on what type of game you need, you're either going to need to use a navigation mesh, or if you know the discrete distances between things, then maybe my solution is a better solution for you. Just want to get that out of the way, okay? So let's look at my solution, right? So here it is over here. Let's just run this quickly. And I have 3 different tile types, okay? I have the wooden floor tile, I have like a polished stone one, and I also have a wall. Right now it's showing me a path from the start in the green box to the end, which is the red box here, only using the stone tiles. So I'm gonna turn off this tile and make it a wall, and a waller is an unnavigable tile, and now it's recomputed the only path, right, for now. But now I have another option here, is I'm going to make the wooden tile navigable or walkable. I'm going to make it walkable. So I'm going to turn that on, and as you can see now, it's actually figuring out the best path finding to your target. Now, why is this important? You're saying, okay, well, it's no big deal. Well, the way I designed it is you pass it an array of item IDs from the grid map, which tiles are navigable. And that's powerful, because now you could have different types of floor tiles, and the algorithm you pass it an array of which tiles, and I'm going to show you the tile. It's called item ID. And yeah, so that's really great. The solution is actually very configurable. Okay, so as you can see here is when I'm adding the wood tile, now it's using a shorter distance. It's using A pathfinding algorithm. There you go. Okay, all right. So first of all, I'm using the debug draw. You have to actually download this, but it's included in the repository, and I'll have the link of the repository on GitHub in the description. Okay, so what's going on here? So the most important thing is there is a preload that you need to put in, and this is my script here, and you should name it GridMap Pathfinding, the script here, and it's enabled. And again, it's just a simple three method script. The first method is set up A star grid. The other one is the most important one. After you do that is your game's going to use it, but also the debug uses it, is find me the path. You find the start location and the end location. And the other one is do debug path, where it just debugs and shows it on the screen, right? And before we go into it, let's see it from the main, right? So this is the main script here, right? And as you can see, on ready, you initialize basically set up A star, and A star, you have to pass it a grid map. So this is the grid map here. As you can see, this is the grid map over here. You pass it the grid map. You pass it an array of walkable items. What are walkable items? Well, in the grid map, you basically have to select all the item IDs. And the first one is the kind of like the gray tile, which is 0. And the second one is the floor tile, the wood floor tile. And the third one is not navigable, and it's a wall. But when I set up this initial test, I only set up the stone tile as the navigable tile. And then when you change the wood toggle, then I add 1, which is, this is 0, 1, 2. I add the wood floor tile to the navigable the navigable grids, and then I reset up the A star grid. As you can see, so this is just code for the toggles and the escape, but it's literally 2 lines of code. It's 2 lines of code. This demo is basically 2 lines of code. You set up the A star grid, and then you basically do debug path, which calls find path. And then, once you have the path, you basically either move your character or move the enemy, or you draw stuff. You could do anything you want. That's basically it. I'll have this in a repository, and so don't worry about it. It looks complicated, but it's actually super simple. Okay, so yeah, let's go into what the code is doing, right? So you could call set up A star grid anytime, and it clears itself out. So the instance of the A star clear and the point ID map. The point ID map is useful to iterate and find IDs, basically. I clear them just in case you called this before, and I loop through all walkable items. Again, that's the array of item IDs, and 0 is this floor tile and 1 is the wood tile, if you set it up that way. And then for each one of them, I basically call GridMap.getUseCellsByItem. See this thing here? And then it returns back an array of vector 3i's of all the cells that are using that ID, right? And you add the points to A star and also the point ID map. And then it actually basically queries all its neighbor tiles, even though if they don't exist. I query the one in front of me, I query the one to the left of me, I query the one to the right of me and the behind, right? And basically, if they exist in the point ID map, because they might not exist because they're not walkable. But if they do exist, it means they're walkable. And then if they're not connected, then it connects them, because they could be previously connected, right? And by the way, connect points, it's bidirectional, right? As you can see, it's always true on bidirectional. And so this is the reason why you check to see if they're already connected, because you could actually have previously connected them, right? Anyways, this basically finds all its neighbors that are actual part of the A star search graph. And that's basically it. This code here sets up the A star grid perfectly, and it's using your grid map walkable tiles to set it up, and it connects all the points so that A star node could actually do its magic. And here's the find path, and all you need to give it is the start and the end. And basically this section here checks to see if the start or the end do not exist on the point ID map, because if they don't exist, it means it can't find a path there because it's not part of the A star search. So this is just basically a check to see if you gave it a wrong start or end target position. And basically this is what it gets: A star get point path, right? And that's basically it, and it returns the path, right? And this is used by either your game, but in this example it doesn't use, we call it through the debug. And basically the path, to do a debug path, you have to pass it the grid map, the grid map cell size. You always have to kind of pass the grid map cell size, the current position, and the target position. I should have named the current position the start position and the end position, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And I debug a bunch of different things. I change the color of a box depending if it's the start, the end, or the middle, and then I draw points, and that's what it's doing, the debug. So that's what it's doing on the debug here, as you can see. That's what it's doing. And that's basically it. As you can see, if you strip out all the debug and all that, it's just a couple of lines of code. It's actually quite easy. Yeah. One of the things, oh, by the way, one of the things that I was going to do maybe in another video, because I don't want this video to be too long, is how do you do portals? How do I do, like, if I put a portal here and connect it with another level on a different Y axis, so maybe it's higher than you, or you're going up a stairs, how do you do that? Well, I can do that by just connecting this tile, like a portal tile, to another tile. And when you do a connection, by the way, when you connect, add point, you could also put a weight, right? It defaults to 1, and in a grid map on the same floor, it is 1. It's all the same weight. But what this means is you could put something expensive, like going up a flight of stairs, as a heavier weight, and that will mean it would want to stay on this current floor instead of going up, across, and then down, right? So this is the reason why the weight is here. A lot of the default settings in this simple example are fine, but there's a lot of stuff like this weight thing here, right? So yeah, again, I will have a link to the repository. Let's see where the repository is. It's right over here. It's private right now because I might have to clean it up. And here it is. It's called Godot A star Pathfinding for GridMaps. It's the entire repository, and I'll add some documentation when I have more time. So that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll have a link to my my game. It's in debug mode, so that's why you see that, right? So again, if you're using a dungeon crawler, I think using A star search is the perfect. Don't use a navigation map. Oops, I'm gonna get hit. Anyways, hope you find that useful. Take care and have a great day.